Hi, everybody. Today is January 1st, 2023, and this is the second in a series of Sunday, or as I call them, Sound Day sonic sermons. And last week I talked about God, and this week I want to talk about purpose. Purpose, yeah. But before I do that, I just want to frame where I am. I'm in a hotel in Negril, Jamaica. I was here for fireworks last night, and so that's where I am, in case anybody's wondering. And I'm live because this topic is super important. I know that when we get into New Year's, people are always making resolutions about what they want to do, and I think that we have a real sort of self-identity more with our doing than with our being. And it's whenever we get asked when we're kids, what do you want to do when you grow up? It's like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And it's often, not a state. Like, I want to be happy, or I want to be feel abundant, or I want to know love deeply. Like, I'm going to have a career of this kind or another. So, yeah, if you're showing up, drop a note. I didn't do a lot of reminding people, and I didn't set up a live stream because last time when I did that and I went to go live, it got stuck, it got hung, and I was like, I don't want that to happen again. So I'm just sort of popping on. So yeah, I love it to see you guys are all from all over the world, wherever you are on this new day. Every day's a new day, really, right? I don't get too locked into that Gregorian calendar, but it does have significance in our lives in various ways. So, okay, so we're talking, for those of you who are just joining, we're talking about today's theme, which is what is our purpose and how can we live it? So last week, I talked about the phrase, many are called, but few are chosen, and how I don't think that that's a true phrase. So we have all these phrases that sort of frame these concepts in our head, and we walk around speaking them as if they're like some kind of absolute truth. So I like to call out and question, like, basically everything. And so that's one of the things. And I think all are called, right? I was saying that there's a force in nature which moves nature on its true path. Right? Nature is in flow. The cosmos is in harmony. Everything in the natural world unfolds in this mathematical, musical, perfect harmony and order. But as humans, we've gotten very disordered and basically out of tune, right? We've got those out of tune instruments. So we can't hear the music of the universe. And we can't play our own instrument in tune because there's so many signal jammers that get in the way of that. So many programs and stuff that's running, so that song, that music of the spheres that all of nature is moved by, right? And that's what I would call our conscience. So it's the force of the one guiding us to be in harmony with the dance, right? That's so all are called to the dance, right? And many choose to participate, quite honestly. This idea that people are not honoring their truth, that they're not following their calling. I know so many people who are, and it might be a bumpy road, and they might fall into ditches. They get up and they get back on that path of that calling, right? So I think that all are called. Many follow, and many want to follow more, but don't know how. Right? They're powerless in some way. I spent many years in clinical practice. I used to see, there was a spell there where I was seeing 5 people a day, 5 days a week. And if anybody out there is a tuner, like 25 tune-ups a week is a lot. It's a lot, because in tuning, you really get into people's stuff. Like, you get inside their mind, you feel their feelings, you feel their trauma, just like right there with them in this sort of wordless place of understanding. And it's a lot to put your body through. And so, but what I discovered and what I observed in clinical practice was that the people who were the most unhappy were people who didn't have a sense of purpose. It made me think of like being a boat in a little harbor, and or even maybe a good sized boat with no map and no mission. And so just sort of being becalmed and stuck and maybe going around in circles, but no great adventure to be had, no hero's journey to undertake, no mercantile operations for abundance, just kind of a stuckness. And I think that that's really the number one thing that I treat in Biofield tuning is stuckness, right? Why do you go see anybody for anything? Because you're stuck, because you can't solve the problem yourself, because you're not able to locate the resources within or without to do it by yourself, right? Like if I go into a ditch in Vermont in the winter and I can't get out myself, I'm not going to sit there gunning my tires and beating myself up because I can't get out, right? Like I need to call a tow truck. And so many of us just end up in places in our life where we need to call a tow truck, and that's okay, right? But when you have purpose, right, you get up every day and you know what you're doing and you know why you're doing it. And that makes life a lot easier. You wake up and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do with my time, and I don't know why I'm here. That's hard, right? So when we think about making resolutions, it's often around what we want to do, okay? But what I have to share with you today is super fun. I hope it works for you. I've only actually tested this on a few people, so I don't have any guarantees that it will work. But let's just enter into it with curiosity, right? So we're just going to do an experiment together. You guys are a test group for me to see how this works. But I found this really interesting kind of hack, or I guess it's a hack, to figure out what your purpose is. And I know people like do all these workshops and everything like this, but what it is, so in the Biofield anatomy, right? A lot of you are familiar with the Biofield anatomy. I mapped all these zones. I'm like, oh, every time we feel resentful because we're over caretaking other people, we kind of pile up energy over here. And then we feel sad and we don't express it, we pile up energy here. So I mapped the feet, the knees, the 7 major energy centers, and I was working in that structure for a number of years. And then one day I got curious. I'm like, God, there's a lot of real estate between like the feet and the knees, and especially the knees and the hips. I'm like, what is going on in those places? And so I did a series. This is available at biofieldtuningstore.com, exploring the half steps. I think it's 6 1-hour sessions where I explore with you guys what's going on in these zones. And it's really interesting. They're kind of like wild zones. They're kind of like the woods between cultivated fields, right? They're more wild. There's less conscious mind in these places. We've been exploring chakras forever, right? But these half steps are kind of unexplored territory. It's not developed area in the collective human psyche, right? So if you're curious about that, and it's very powerful to work in those, you can check out that particular series. But I made this observation. So I have to stand up here because I'm going to ask you to stand up when we get there. Okay. But I'm going to demonstrate first that in video games, now I don't play video games, but I make a lot of allegory and metaphor to video games because I have 2 young sons. Well, they're big now. I grew up watching them play. And so when a character is idling, all right, they're standing up, and don't mind me, I'm here in Negril, the capital of casual here. They've got their hands by their thighs, right? And they kind of are bouncing up and down. And the hands are just hanging out there. And when a character is idling, it's waiting for a command for engagement of some kind or another, right? It needs to have a purpose. It needs to have a mission. It needs to have an intention. Otherwise, it's just idling. So in that position with the hands, right? Because your hands are how you receive and how you give and what you do, right? Your hands are such an expression of who you are. Zach Bush talks about doing what is it when they take apart cadavers? I can't think of the word. But how it was like working on this old woman's hand that he was just like so touched by her humanity. Right? So the hands are super key in the expression of our own humanity. And the thighs really relate to this sort of like, how do we engage? Where do we go? What are we doing? It's sort of like this, when you engage, you're kind of lifting up the leg to kind of go, right? So the hands are what we do, and our legs are kind of like where we go, right? So in this zone is the information of what your purpose is. It's right there, right? Now, I'm going to give you kind of, I don't want to prep you too much, but in most of the people that I put through this, they were surprised, myself included, because I did it to myself first, that the answer was a state of being and not doing, right? But there's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. and another person I did it with, as soon as she did it, she cried. So there might be emotion that is in the way of you knowing your purpose, right? Because when you know your purpose, all doing springs from that place. You don't need to know what you're going to do, but your beingness naturally causes the hands and the thighs to engage in the doingness that serves, that is an expression of that beingness, right? I think that's kind of liberating in a way, because it can act as a compass. Any choice or anything you're going to do, like, well, is this in alignment with what I feel like my purpose is? Okay, so all right, here, let's get to it. How exciting. Autopsy. Thank you for the word. Okay, but I don't know if it's an autopsy, because it's more of like when you're a doctor and you're learning how to, human anatomy, right? All right, speaking of human anatomy, so the half step of the thighs, the minor chakras of the hands, all right, what you're going to do is, and this is super, super important, okay, because I'm going to have you stand up and I'm going to have you ask a question. And you have to honor the very, very first thing that comes to your mind, not anything other than that, okay? Just whatever the first thing that pops in. It might be surprising. Okay, so we're all going to stand up together, and we're going to put our hands just in front of our thighs, upper thighs. And you're going to ask the question to yourself, right? Just kind of stand there for a moment, get into that idle position, really tune into this area, right? I really want you to bring your awareness to and illuminate the whole tops of the thighs, the hands. There's kind of like a band here almost of information in this zone, right? And then you're going to ask yourself the question, what is my purpose? And then see what comes up. All right. So does anybody want to drop a note of what came up? Was it surprising? Did nothing come up? I think everybody's had something come up. So just kind of check in and see what appeared. I think I've lost you all here. Dance. There we go. There's one. Healing. Photography. Loving beauty. Help people ground to poetry. My hands tingle to show the way. To show the way, that's an interesting one, because I kind of relate to that. I'm like, I kind of have this tendency to be out in front of people because I'm so curious and I'm so zippy. Like figure out all this stuff and then come back and be like, hey, I figured out this way to go and a lot more light in this direction. Crickets. So if anybody had like nothing come up, right, then I would say at some point, just try it again. Go to like a nice spot in nature and trust the first thing that arises. I think that's the key. I think one of the keys to life is like really trusting ourselves and trusting our impressions and our feelings and our messages. That's how the more connected we are to God, the more we trust ourselves. Stability. Yeah. So if your purpose is stability, right? So that's a really interesting one, right? My purpose is stability. I got to get as stable as I can. I got to learn to ride the emotional waves, the unexpected parts of life, so that I have a coherent field and I'm extending that coherence to the people around me, right? I'm helping them to be stable. I've had lots of people tell me when they get in my field, they're like, wow, I feel really coherent. That's because I am a strong coherent emitter because I've been around tuning forks so much, right? So I'm just super tuned. And so I heard Alex Zek told me about this experiment that Veda Austin, Veda Austin, Austin, I think. She's done some very cool work with water, like the messages from water, like a moto, but she's evolved it into her own spin. She's doing some very cool stuff. So if you haven't checked her out, I really would like you to do that. But she's done experiments where she's taken the whites of eggs and frozen them and looked at it. And so she knew the caged eggs did this, and pasture eggs did that and looked a lot more coherent. But she took one pasture egg and put it in a circle of 9 caged eggs. The coherent, more eggy egg in the middle actually informed the eggs around it into more coherence, right? So whatever you are doing for you to honor the truth of who you are brings you more into focus, into clarity, into coherence, into truth. And that is a strong signal. It's stronger than people's incoherence or upset or whatever. And then you entrain them literally like on a liquid level. It's very cool. Let me come back and see so many of these. So, to stand out and deliver, don't really understand. So it's okay that you don't understand, right? It's okay to be curious about that. And actually, what that leads me to is our tiny tuning today, which is to just help us to get clearer on whatever our purpose is, or to strengthen our connection to that purpose, and to help. I think I'm sort of almost seeing like make it easier to stay on that path, right? Just easier. I'm like, oh yeah, that's my mission. That's what I'm here for. And I'm like, oh, go this way, so that we're not kind of wasting time or energy dithering with things that are, maybe dead ends or unfulfilling ultimately. Good. Okay. Liquid gold knowledge. All right. Okay. So the first thing, let's just kind of tune into was if when we did this exercise, you had discomfort come up anywhere, like I'm kind of feeling it, right? It's kind of in my voice. I can kind of feel it in the group that there's kind of almost like a little emotional edge, or that there's stuff coming up, right? And so if anybody's feeling that way, that's okay. And even if you're watching the recording, you're still part of what's going on here and how I'm responding to the group. Sometimes what can happen is this emotion of grace, right? Where you realize you're like, oh my God, that's it. And you're like, oh, right. And so the tears of grace, or the sort of tears of like some part of the ego breaking down, just kind of surrendering, is something that can kind of come up, right? And you really surrender to what life wants us to do and to be. And sometimes it hurts, and sometimes it's hard. And, sometimes there's just a lot of piles of emotion that you haven't really dealt with yet that are in the way of that. But the good news is that it's really all surmountable, I think. That's been my experience. If you just keep at it, we're all kind of polishing ourselves and fine-tuning ourselves, because remember, all of humanity is out of tune. There's nothing wrong with you. You just popped out in the space-time continuum in a time that's like, wow, that's pretty messy here, right? And I'm messy too. Like, what the heck, right? So that's what I call like being a force of syntropy, because very often our purpose is syntropic in some way, right? That's the opposite of entropic. Entropic is everything's falling apart. Syntropic is I'm creative, I'm making things happen, I'm bringing things together, right? Growing. That's what humans are. We work, right? We're syntropic. Yeah. Okay. So just again, just coming back, I'll just take a moment, come back, close your eyes, really feel your feet on the floor. I'd rather you're sitting up than lying down, but if you need to be lying down, that's okay. But just try to really tune into your feet. Just tune into your body and any kind of tension or story or anxiety or funky current that's running. Maybe you're feeling calm and good, and that's great too. And then take a big breath and then just blow it out. And then breathe into the belly. And then exhale down into the ground. And if you're a tuner and you've got your forks, you can grab them. And if you don't have one, that's fine. Use your voice, whatever way you want. And I'm going to use a 144 start. So 144 just kind of goes in and shakes up those places, resonates with those places that are kind of uncomfortable, that are like, well, I'm not really completely aligned with and jiving with my purpose. I still don't know what it is. Whatever kind of discomfort is going on, right? I'm really feeling it. So we're just going to close our eyes and be curious. If you've never done this before and you just happen to be dropping in, you're just going to listen. I mean, that's all I do. You're just going to listen together and let the forks kind of tell us the story. Okay, here we go. Pay attention to your breath. And I'm going to have to breathe. Like I will feel whatever kind of tension is there and then exhale it out. This is what I was talking about. There's kind of fear. And it's almost like kind of a nameless fear. It's kind of like this weird over the shoulder fear. And it feels kind of ancestral. Like a lot of those fears that we're not even really sure what they are often something that's come down the line, right? Or that's just in the collective human mind. We're not as individuated as we've been led to believe that we are. Okay, I have goosebumps all up and down, especially my right side. And I'm just going to tell you the story of what happened in those just few strikes. Really amazing thing happened. So, it was really came in. That second one was really, really reflecting this sort of fear. But that last one I did, what came in, and it came in very quickly and very strongly, was determination. Determination. It was just sort of like, and that's in order to fulfill our purpose, in order to fulfill our mission, we've got to be determined, right? That action, that drive, and it's emotion, right? It's like amplified intention is determination. I'm determined to do this. I'm determined to finish this. I'm determined to see this through the end. I'm determined to finish this race. It's a good feeling to have. It's life. It like amps your current. You're determined. Get those last few reps, determined to do this. That's what makes us stronger, right? That's that core energy coming to the fore. And so that's what happened in that fork. In just a few strikes of that 144, that core energy of determination came to the fore. So good job for you guys. All right, so now I've got the 174. And again, just gonna listen with this one and see what it tells us. And if you've got one, you can strike it too. And if you need to move or wiggle or stretch or make a sound or anything like that, follow that. Yeah, lots of yawning going on, right? That's often a response. My ankles often like rotate and roll. That's what's happening here. And it made me burp. That's another way to release. Okay, so that particular strike reflected our tendency to kind of go around in circles and like not do anything at all, right? It makes me think of like every blog post I've ever started and not finished. I'm like, I'm starting another, like, right? And we all probably do that. And luckily, like my unfinished projects are like, in my laptop, you can't see them. The things I start writing and don't finish. But, if you're a creator of some kind, you might be surrounded by them. And that's not a comfortable place to be, surrounded by unfinished stuff. That really bogs us down. And so this next strike is coming in, is working with that. Oh, I'm starting, then I'm not finishing, and I'm kind of going around in circles kind of feeling, right? And kind of just ground that. I think that's what wants to happen. It's like just really grounded. And the more you're grounded in your purpose, like, is this blog post in alignment with my purpose? No, not really. And that's why I didn't finish it. Right? Yeah. Whew. A lot going on here. Just keep being curious. Whatever your experience is your experience. No right or wrong. But do make sure you're breathing, right? Don't hold your breath too much. Yeah, there's all kinds of tensions coming up. More circles. Fear. There's a lot of fear of judgment. Oh, a lot of fear of judgment. So when a pattern lets go, it kind of rips through me like light, like an eraser on a board. I'm like, oh, I just want to like shake and wiggle and kind of shake the whole pattern out. And it's very spontaneous, right? It's very like, whoa, moving me. I mean, I prefer that I didn't do it, but that's just what happens. And it's okay if you don't feel that. I think the more tunings you receive, the more sound moves spontaneously through you. Like if I'm ever near a good band, I can't stop moving because my fluids and everything are so free, right? Sound has levity. Sound has levity, and it opens up space. So the less restricted you are, you don't need 6 beers to get on the dance floor at midnight. Finally, you're just like up there at 7 o'clock when nobody else is, because life wants to move and dance and celebrate, right? Music, and that's how we're moved, right? This music of the sphere. So the more free we are, the more attuned we become to the subtle music of life that's guiding us in the dance. Right? Okay, so a lot of in that round, and we're still not done with it. There is a lot of like our own judgment and our fear of other people's judgment, and like being knocked off course and feeling like you're driving a tractor trailer down the highway and like a high winds. There's a whole lot of this going on. Yeah, and that just speaks to me of like how hard it is, right? It's not easy to like figure out who you are and why you're here and what you're doing and how you can move in the game and be determined to do it. This is all like, what the heck is going on kind of place. We do get buffeted about. We forget who we are. We forget how great and amazing we are. We get stuffed in these tiny human suits with all these limitations. But we're infinitely strong beings. Yeah, and this I know. So it's just about tapping into that part of you and expanding from there. All right, let's keep listening with the 174 and see where we go. That's depression, exhaustion. I can't go on. And then I'm like, blah, kind of total depletion sort of feeling in there. Been there multiple times. But you can get out of that, right? If anybody's had like long haul, whatever, like you just need to raise your voltage. Raise your voltage, clarify your signal, you'll feel better. You need sound inputs, you need music inputs, you need delight from the little things, right? You need to choose over and over again. It's okay to be selfish. You can't give from an empty cup, right? Life puts us through these things, but that determination can bring you to a state of vibrant health, and you're not going to get it from supplements or food, guys. It's not where real health comes from. Real health comes from God. It comes from light. It comes from loving ourselves and loving life. It doesn't come in celery juice. That's never gonna make you closer to God and closer to the God in you and loving the God and the light in you and feeding that and bringing that into the world. Dull, heavy, worn out, sad, grief, loss. All the that in the happy face in theater and the sad face in theater, right? So this is all the sad face stuff that is just flowing through right here, right? And life is comedy and a tragedy. It's comfortable, it's uncomfortable, right? This contrast is what makes life cool. Well, one of the things. Music just started. That's interesting. Something just kind of shook out there, and then the music out at the bar turned on. And then the fork sounds better. Listen to that. Right? So that's nice. This fork isn't working anymore. It's coming to like a clearer, more free space. It's more like la da da. Right? Like a happy kid. Big breath if you haven't already taken one. Really blow it out all the way. Blow out all the way. Kind of hold it out before you let it back in. All right, check in how you're feeling in this moment, what you're noticing, what your experience was in that, if you want to. We're going to do one more fork, and that's the 528. So someone said sneezing it all out. That's what dogs do. A lot of times when I work on dogs, like afterwards. It's really cute. All right. So just kind of, getting a sense of your state in this moment. Remember, we're talking about purpose still and feeling into purpose and our connection to our purpose. We waste less time. We move through the levels faster. If that's what you want to do, that's how I like to play games. Like zip, 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 zip. Like how many levels can I get to? If you're in this alignment, because the more you're in alignment with this moment and your purpose and with God, the easier, you just like, oh, there's my resource, solve the problem. There's my resource, solve the problem. And humanity's been kind of cultivated into a sort of self-pitying, sodden mass of stuck in problems and victimhood. We don't need to be. I just want to say that there's a way out of that. There's a way out of that. And then it makes things way more fun and into an empowerment that you are capable of, no matter where you're at in life. So I woke up this morning feeling defeated, like things are insurmountable. Yeah, right. I think that it's really easy to feel that way. But the reason why you feel that way is because you've been told all these lies about how small you are. And also, our true power, guys, comes from connection with others. It just does. Connection with others, connection with God, connection with life. That's abundance. That, we've all been conditioned into these individuated silos of, suffering and problems, and we're very often and I said this a bunch, but it took until I was 50 years old to realize that if I had a problem that I wasn't solving, if I had a can I kept kicking down the road, and I'd beat myself up because I'm not doing it, this, that, or the other. And it finally dawned on me that I needed to ask for help. I just need to ask for help. And as soon as I would start asking for help with these things that I'm struggling to do on my own, like boom, 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 got them all done. Right? So a big part of our purpose is in being connected. And it's through our connection with other humans. You're feeling defeated, go hang out and do a drum circle. Go to some chanting thing, like go for a run, get more blood, get more oxygen, get more life flowing through you, hang out with other people, laugh, sing, dance. Your voltage will go right up. We need each other. We need each other. And I know we've been so beaten into that opposite end of the spectrum, instead of light and connectivity and aliveness and love, we're like in our corners snarling. Right? That's why we're here to change. We're like, well, let's just bring more light. Okay, so enough of all that. The 528 is a good good light bringer. So let's listen to this one and see where it brings us. Right? This is very much like isolated, small, sad, alone, scared, small, powerless, self-pity, right? So easy for us to go there. It's certainly been easy for me to go there. The big thing, right? That emerging from that place into our own inner light, into the light of each other's, like that's where healing happens. Okay, so I want you to, in the next few strikes of this, and maybe you're already feeling it, I want you to see right behind your eyes, the pituitary gland is sort of right there. Okay, and that is a white light. And that it's through the pituitary really that we project and perceive our reality. There's a lot of people have a lot of clouds and illusions in here. So just going to take the next few strikes to really illuminate the pituitary gland, the master gland, the all-seeing, right? This is the part of you that knows your purpose, it's connected to your purpose, that sees the landscape beyond where you are in order to guide your movements to be in alignment with what your current experience of self is. Right? So we want this to be clear. We want our connection to this to be clear. We're just going to spend a couple minutes polishing and brightening that area, and then we'll be done. Right? So you go into 2023 kind of with a clearer vision of self, a clearer vision of the world around you, more efficiency and fun in fulfilling purpose. God loves you, life loves you, water loves you. Life is love. It just is. And it's sweet, right? There's a sweetness in here that it's safe and okay to touch, and to touch that sweetness in you, right? Pure water coming up from a deep, deep spring is sweet. Mother's milk is sweet, right? Life can be very sweet. It can be bitter and salty and sour and all the other tastes too, right? But there's a certain sweetness here that's fundamental. Yeah, so sonic cleaning of that pituitary, just letting the sound really kind of come in and scrubbing any gunk away. Really visualize it, really get in there behind your eyes, really see that white light behind your eyes. Notice how that sonic scrubbing feels. It's a little weird to me. All right, that's kind of cleaning up. I feel like we just kind of put some dust on the floor, like drywall dust. And so this is kind of cleaning and sweeping. I almost feel dusty in my tongue, which is kind of strange. Okay, last one. Right, and that's that ringing that I was talking about last week. Our cells ringing with the song of creation, the music of the spheres, that ring of truth. Right, that's where your pituitary is like, oh. Good. Yeah. All right. That is our little tiny tuning for the day. And check in to see how you feel. What do you notice? Drop a note. Right? And when we do this collectively, right? Again, that's what we did last week. That's what we did this week. We're going to keep doing. Even just in our little circle, or the few thousand people that end up watching this, we all just brought in more light, right? And more clarity. Yeah. That is not the sonic slider I'm using. That is the 528. It just used unweighted forks. So, all right. So I hope that you kind of have a feeling of maybe a little more clarity, a little more lightness, right? Better, clearer, lighter, more connected. So this is something I've never done before, but I'm going to say it. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that. If you have any friends that need more light in their life, could use some inspiration and could use some, just hanging out with some good vibes, you can share my videos with them. And then for a little while anyway, I'll be showing up on Sundays. Oh, and if you want to make a donation, and I haven't dropped a link yet, but these are free. They're not behind a paywall. But if you want to make a donation, any donations that get made are going to go to our scholarship fund to help students enroll in Biofield tuning who can't afford it. So really working with underserved populations and trying to help them become educated in Biofield tuning. So I'll drop a link at some point if you want to do that. So, all right, everybody. So it's always a pleasure to hang out with you. Obviously, my blessing for you in 2023 is that you know and you live your purpose with determination and fun and play. Not take life too seriously, and help lighten the fields and the energy of the people around you. Yeah. All right. Much love. Be well. See you next Sunday.